A young woman accidentally gained the ability to see lines that reveal the number of partners a person has had. Hi, today we will look at the plot of the 2025 series S-Line. A girl named Hyeon lives in an apartment with windows covered in cardboard. Because she possesses an unusual ability, she sees red lines above people's heads that indicate how many partners they've had. Her power works not only during face-to-face interactions, but even through television. For instance, on one TV show, company employees insist that their relationships are purely professional, but the red lines reveal otherwise. This ability first appeared when she was a child, but only as she grew older did Hyeon begin to understand what it meant. One day her mother found her drawings and realized what those lines represented. That discovery led to her parents' breakup. When Hyeon realized that knowing the truth about red lines could even cost someone their life, she decided never to talk about her gift again. But this wasn't her only power. Hyeon is also immortal. So, since she has to live somehow, she sets a personal mission to uncover the origin of these red strings and find out whether she's really the only one who can see them. Her thoughts are interrupted by a new neighbor who moved in a few days ago and drops by with a gift. Not wanting to interact, Hyeon waits until the neighbor leaves before picking up the fruit left at her door. At the same time, a detective arrives at the local police station. Hyeon had seen him before. He once offered a ride to his niece. His name is Ji, and he's known for increasing people's red line count rather quickly. Once a co-worker even invited him to her wedding. Meanwhile, Ji's niece, Seion, is having a tough time at school. She's regularly bullied by a group of students. Not long after, Ji is assigned to a new case. At the scene, a messy apartment where everything looks suspiciously staged. A man in a motorcycle helmet was seen entering the building, but no solid leads exist. Da-hee, one of the officers, recalls that the deceased woman once had a boyfriend, but they broke up over a year ago. That evening, the news reports the incident, and Hyeon notices something peculiar. The man in the helmet only has one line above his head. That instantly stands out to her. Even more alarming is the way he tries to eavesdrop on the reporter at the scene. Things get even more serious when Hyeon sees the same motorcyclist stop in front of her building and enter the apartment of her neighbor, the one who had brought her fruit. Alarmed, Hyeon dials 911 and reports the danger, but soon she sees the couple laughing together, and oddly enough, their red lines begin increasing. The next morning, Seion asks her Uncle Ji for money. He suspects she's being bullied, but she shuts the door and avoids answering. Meanwhile, Dong-sik calls Ji and tells him someone had reported the helmeted man to 911, and the call came from the building right across the street, the very building where Ji lives. Ji decides to visit Hyeon and ask what she knows. She replies that she must have imagined it. That same night, another motorcyclist, also with only one red line, arrives and stares directly into her peephole. Dong-sik then finds out that the deceased man used to be a high school teacher. His name was Ahn Joo Young, and he even finds a photo of him. Ji recognizes him. It's the man he once saw in Hyeon's building. After work, Dong-sik decides to investigate further. He enters the suspect's apartment. The door isn't locked, but one of the rooms is incredibly strange. Before he can report anything to Ji, Ahn Joo Young suddenly attacks him. A few minutes later, the biker exits the house and enters the one next door. It turns out he also has a special ability, and his goal is to eliminate others like him in order to erase the red lines. But Hyeon disrupted his plan. Although he managed to injure her, just at that moment Ji arrived at her apartment. Looking through the window, he saw what was happening across the street. Without hesitation, he rushed over and fired a few precise shots. In his final moments, the man whispered, "The thread disappears." This made Hyeon realize that she's not the only one who can see the red lines. However, now that he's gone, there's no way to learn more from him. That same day, Hyeon began to rethink everything. What if these red threads could actually be used to help people, not hurt them? She takes off her glasses, and the sky above her glows red. At that moment, she receives a message. "We're the same. Come to Banju school." The next day, Seion sees Hyeon reading a valentine that San had secretly left for Ji-won. Overcome with emotion, San lashes out and attacks Hyeon. Their teacher, Miss Lee, hears the commotion and steps in to break up the fight. She scolds Seion, telling her this behavior is unacceptable. Just as she's leaving, Seion notices Hyeon's special glasses and takes them. Meanwhile, it turns out Dong-sik survived. Ahn Joo Young had only assaulted him. Even though the case was officially closed, Ji is still convinced they missed something critical. He returns to Ahn Joo Young's apartment and takes a closer look at the mysterious red room. The color isn't just for show, it's because of the red lines. There are so many of them that the whole room seems to glow crimson. At the same time, Seion is now wearing the glasses and sees a line above her own head. She tries to pull it off when Ji walks into the house. Terrified, San panics and runs away. Later, Hyun sees Seion gazing at the sky, talking to herself. Then she wanders the streets, staring at all the lines above people's heads. It doesn't take long for her to figure out what they mean, and she even smiles. Excited by her new discovery, Seion goes to school where she begins to see people differently. Some of them seem disgusting to her now. When she sees a line leading behind a wall, curiosity gets the better of her, but she might regret what she finds. That day, a new student arrives in their class. It's Hyun. Meanwhile, Ji is reviewing the case evidence and realizes the special glasses are missing. He heads to the school where Ahn Joo Young used to teach, wondering whether he ever wore glasses. But Ms. Lee tells him she never saw him wearing any. Elsewhere, the same group of bullies, led by Ho-yeon, gathers on the school rooftop to harass San. But this time, Hyun stands up for her, calmly explaining that it's better to walk away from them than to get involved. Ji also follows up at the bar where Oh Jung used to go. The bartender says he was a completely normal person at first, but then something changed. He started talking to himself, even though he was sober. He would constantly repeat numbers. 1, 2, 3. One time he even got into a fight with another customer. Apparently he was counting the red lines above people's heads. That's what set someone off and caused the altercation. The bartender adds that Oh Jung always wore glasses. As Ji is about to leave, a new opportunity arises. Another chance to track someone through their red lines. Meanwhile, Seion is walking down the street when she runs into Huyen, one of the girls who bullied her. San immediately decides to get back at her and sets up compromising evidence involving one of their teachers. But Huyen is completely unfazed. She believes no one will punish her. So Seion sets her sights on a new target, the teacher. She sends him the photo, and his reaction is immediate, complete shock, like his world is collapsing. Moments later, he receives a chilling message: prepare 20 million. San starts to enjoy her newfound power and begins gathering compromising material on other teachers as well. Hyun begins to sense that all these incidents aren't random. She notices the glasses Seion is wearing. When she asks her about the lines, Seion seems genuinely confused. Hyun needs answers. Where exactly did Seion find those glasses? Seion replies that someone must have slipped them into her locker. In any case, Hyun knows one thing for sure. Those glasses are too dangerous to remain in the wrong hands. She forcefully takes them back. Now, she's determined to use them to open everyone's eyes to the truth behind their hidden connections. Late at night, Hyun secretly follows Seion and steals the glasses again. As soon as she puts them on, she finally understands how they expose people's secrets. Seion soon realizes the glasses are missing. But before she can act, she receives a message from a teacher asking her to keep things quiet and offering money. He tries to explain that he's going through serious financial difficulties, but before he can finish the conversation, his wife sends him the same photo. Convinced that Seion is behind it all, the teacher loses control and pushes her off a ledge. Luckily, Seion had already called Hyun earlier, so Hyun is able to find her and call an ambulance just in time. At the hospital, Hyun tells Ji that Seion didn't fall by accident. The next day, Teacher Kim finds the glasses on his desk. When he puts them on, he sees the red lines for the first time. Another teacher tells him that the students who bullied Seion have all mysteriously disappeared, except for one boy who spent time with her on her last day, Lee Ji. Lee Ji tells Ji that San asked to take a photo together. Right after they did, she suddenly stood up and ran off, saying she had lost something. Ji reviews the school footage and spots Hoyeon in the background. Meanwhile, Kim is planning to move to another country. But before that, he stays at his sister's place for a week. After dinner, he notices his brother-in-law acting strange, always glued to his phone. Then Kim sees a red line leading to another floor. Curious, he follows it, but the man stops him. Back at school, Kim notices something odd. Their star teacher, Lee, doesn't have any lines at all. That surprises him. But some of the other people's connections are just as unusual. Kim continues tracing the mysterious line, and it leads him to an apartment. There lives a woman his brother-in-law has clearly been involved with. By checking the mailbox, he learns her name, Kwak. Despite it being the anniversary of his and his sister's mother's passing, her husband is nowhere to be found. He tells his wife he's on a business trip, but Kim has serious doubts. He follows the man and confirms his suspicions. He gives him 1 day to come clean to his sister, or else, he says, he doesn't know what he might do. Later, Kim visits Kwok's social media and finds a recent post. She's had a child. Kim rushes to tell his sister everything, but to his shock, she already knows. And instead of thanking him, she blames him for ruining her life. When Kim sees his brother-in-law go to Kwok's home instead of being with his wife, he finally snaps and punches him. His sister begs him to stop and confesses the truth. The man is actually married to Kwok. She is the other woman. Kim, stunned, orders the man to leave Kwok and return to his legal wife. And surprisingly, he does. Later, Ji finds a journal Seion kept, and in it, he discovers a note about the glasses. He asks Seion what the glasses really reveal. She answers with just one word: lines. It's clear that Ji finds it hard to believe. Hyun explains that thanks to the glasses, Seion also began to see the lines and used that ability for blackmail. Ji suspects that there may be more than one pair of such glasses, and he turns out to be right. A similar pair belonged to Mi-song, a young teacher at the school who secretly had feelings for the new music teacher. Her feelings, however, came off as overly obsessive. All day long, Ji studied documents related to recent cases. They mentioned threads, which made him turn to Hyun again with a question. Did Seion have any threads? If she doesn't want to talk, he still needs to know if Seion was somehow connected to their classmate. Hyun answers, no, she didn't know where the line led. Later, a report on TV shows a suspect being detained, and Hyun recalls Ji's earlier assumption. There might be more than one pair of glasses. The next day, Mi-song visits the music teacher. He has one visible line, but in an instant, it connects to Mi-song. Meanwhile, Hyun decides to jump into the pool. Jun-sun, the guy who likes Hyun, panics, thinking she might drown, so he jumps in after her. He asks why she did that. Hyun admits, I have the ability to see lines. Jun-sun asks if he has a line. She replies, no, neither I nor our friend Kyung-jin. He fully believes her and calls her special, but in truth, she still does have a line. The next day, Mi-song sees the music teacher spending time with another girl. She loses control, grabs that girl, locks her in a hotel room, and heads to the musician. He suddenly feels unwell, loses consciousness, and suffers a head injury. When Hyun finds the girl, she immediately calls the police. But by that time, both Mi-song and the music teacher are already dead. When Ji inspects the hotel room, the glasses are gone. Hyun remembers that Mi-song always wore glasses at school. That's why she used to say they were extremely dangerous. After Ji drains the water, he finally finds the glasses and puts them on. He's genuinely shocked by the number of lines above his own head. He recalls his life, how from an early age he took care of Seion after her parents died. Eventually, he wanted to free himself from that responsibility, but what he tried to run from ended up becoming his job, and the world filled with red lines turned out to be far more complicated than he imagined. He never even suspected that some of his colleagues shared lines too, and Dong-sik was his complete opposite. After his shift, Ji brings Lee-ji to Sean's hospital room to check whether there's a line between them. He asks if he knows who she was dating. Lee-ji says he heard about someone she hated. At that same moment, Hyun receives a party invitation from an anonymous user. A girl named Ji-na comes to the police station to file a report against her boyfriend, Ahn Joo. She behaves very politely, almost perfectly. But Ji sees the lines, and now he knows he still has to talk to Ahn Joo. They go to the school. There they immediately run into Lee. Ji can't believe she doesn't have a single line. Ahn Joo, on the other hand, had only one. He calls Ji-na a good friend and assures everyone that he isn't attracted to her. As soon as Ji steps out into the hallway, he bumps into Hyun. She asks him to return the glasses, but he can't. He needs to understand what the world looks like through the eyes of a criminal. Their argument is noticed by Lee, who asks Hyun to leave. Before leaving, Ji invites Lee to dinner, not even suspecting that she too can see the lines. Thanks to Han Hyo's phone, the detectives realize that Ji-na has been lying to them. Now she can be charged with making a false report. Just to be sure, Ji checks their lines. Late that night, Ji shares updates about the case with Hyun. According to Ji-na, she doesn't have any lines, but he saw at least 4. Hyun recalls that earlier, Ji-na really didn't have a single one. Ji calls Dong-sik to tell him they're not stopping. The investigation will continue. After that, they head to Han Hyo's place, where Ji-na is now staying. All the items had already been thrown out and the surfaces thoroughly cleaned. At that moment, Hyun returned to work and didn't notice that Jun-sun was following her. She decided to play a prank on him and thought, if that were Jun-sun, maybe I could live with a red line. Meanwhile, the detectives found the necessary evidence and sent it for analysis. Ji was troubled by the color of the bedsheet. He had thrown away perfectly matching bedding, not into the trash, but into a donation bin. That looked suspicious. He clearly had something to hide, and Ji wanted to find out what it was. Later, they found a group of 4 boys on the security camera footage, but the real truth came to Hyun the next day, and she immediately called Ji. The whole group was brought to the station. Ji picked the most nervous one and applied psychological pressure. The boy was so frightened that he betrayed his friends in exchange for a reduced sentence. It turned out that Ahn Joo was behind everything. One of the boys who had just received his line genuinely regretted how things turned out. The others confirmed that Ahn Joo had paid them. After his shift, Ji received a call from the hospital. The cameras showed Lee taking his father away, and a photo of San was sent to his phone. Ji rushed to his niece, who thankfully was still in the hospital. But then, the line began to move. The door opened, and his father walked in. Ji thought it might be just his imagination, but the line above the girl didn't change. He was ready to do anything, but managed to hold himself back. It's Hyun's birthday today. Jun-sun wanted to surprise her, but before that, Hyun decides to make a proposal, one he might even refuse. They go to her workplace where a small show was supposed to happen. Later, they walk around the city. Jun-sun asks her to wait a little. He runs off to get some food. Hyun looks at her line, and it disappears. Jun-sun is gone. He died while carrying the cake. Hyun had always wanted to change, but nothing ever worked. She believes she's cursed, because everyone she loves eventually disappears from her life. A few minutes later, she receives a video featuring Kyung-jin, and she immediately calls Ji. Hyun confesses. Every year on her birthday, she receives a postcard. At first, she thought it was from her mother, but over time she realized someone was counting down the days to her birthday. She shows him her phone. They arrive at the school. A light is on in one of the classrooms. Ji runs after Hyun, but she suddenly disappears. He has no idea where she could have gone. At the same time, Hyun finds her friend and frees her. They can't see Ji. The 2 girls try to go downstairs, but they keep ending up in the same place. And then Kyung-jin turns around. On her face are the same glasses. Their homeroom teacher, Lee, once said, "After death, you'll be able to see the lines without glasses." The detective climbs to the rooftop. From there, the world looks completely different. In the distance stands a woman. Long ago, Lee approached her, dressed in black, and handed her a pair of glasses with a proposal. To get rid of the lines above people's heads, she accepted the offer. Out of the darkness steps Lee herself. All the lines lead straight to her head. The people standing in front of Ji were the previous owners of the glasses. Lee pulls off a sheet. Beneath it lies Ji's father. She offers him to cut the line. That way he can save San. Ji tries to stop her, but Lee turns out to be far stronger and ends everything in her own way. Ji grabs his gun and opens fire, but Lee deflects the bullets. The weapon has no effect on her. It was because of Lee that Sean was thrown down. In reality, Kyung-jin attacks Hyun, but Hyun manages to knock the glasses from her hands and break them. Kyung-jin instantly comes to her senses and has no idea where she is. She points at Hyun's wound. Her blood rises into the sky, moving into the world where Lee resides. Hyun asks Lee to let Ji go and to explain why she's doing all this. Lee doesn't hide the truth. She was the one giving people the glasses, and once they began seeing the lines, they were consumed by greed. She's merely the eye of human longing. People would discard the glasses and surround the couple. Moments before the finale, Hyun's mother appears and saves her. She admits she also once had the glasses, and she adds, "You are not to blame for what happened." Hyun lunges at Lee, getting injured in the process. Her body rises into the sky. Her blood pours into the tangled mass of red lines. When the sphere had absorbed enough, a red flash occurred. Lee considers this her victory, not realizing that Hyun is holding a knife. After Lee's death, the characters return to the real world, and now everyone can see the red lines, revealing a lot about those around them. For almost a year, the world descended into chaos. People tried to understand where the lines came from, but they never found the answer. Seion awakens in a world full of lines, but she no longer has any. She and Ji didn't ask each other unnecessary questions. They were simply glad to be alive. And what about Hyun? She was left alone again. Or maybe that's just how it felt to her. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this recap, give it a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.